Trigger warning. The Invisible Man conveys, to a graphic degree, spousal abuse, emotional manipulation, stalking, sexual assault, and psychological torture. The following review will include these situations. Hello everyone, welcome to day 27 of 31 Nights and 31 Frights, and we got a modern one for you today. This is The Invisible Man, a 2020 horror film that I missed earlier this year that is available to stream on HBO Max now. So that's how we're watching it, and that's the film we're doing today. The Invisible Man is hard to watch right past the intro text for a lot of reasons. It paints a really intimate portrait of what it's like to live in an abusive household, be in an abusive relationship, and try to escape that situation. So because of this pretty heavy subject matter, this review probably isn't going to have the lighthearted tone that it usually does, because I'm not going to be making as many jokes out of respect for the film and what it represents. Elizabeth Moss stars in this 2020 horror thriller with light sci-fi elements, and I didn't get to watch it earlier this year when it dropped. After having seen it now, it's heavy. From a technical standpoint, this film is great. The music is there only when it absolutely needs to be. The shots are grand. The cinematography and choreography here is beautiful. And Elizabeth Moss brings this broken character to life in a way that's not often seen in films like this. So I'm not going to spend too long on the technicalities here, because the grit of this film is in its representation, presentation, its storytelling, and experience. Cecilia runs away from her abusive husband with the help of her sister Emily and is kept safe by their cop friend James, but her gajillionaire husband is an optical tech developer and uses this invisibility suit to stalk and torment her, even after her presumably successful escape. The concept is simple, but the message is complex, and this film is constantly juggling things in front of us and doing this very difficult balancing act, pulling it off masterfully through impeccable direction and storytelling. PTSD and paranoia are usually the price of freedom, and this film manages to hold that up right next to the scrutiny that abuse survivors face when looking for someone to confide in and someone to believe them. This film's titular Invisible Man is more than just a narcissistic sociopath control freak with optical camo. He's a device this film uses to shed light on how difficult it can be for abuse survivors to feel safe after leaving that kind of relationship. The invisible suit is kind of just like a catalyst for this theme. It's not so much about the actual Invisible Man, but more about what that represents in abuse survivors and victims of that kind of trauma. The character of Adrian is a pretty frightening personification of narcissism and the lengths to which an abuser will go to maintain control over their victims' lives. It's also interesting how this film's language surrounding Cecilia's abuse is very similar to the dismissive language abuse survivors often have to deal with in real life, to the point that a lot of people's actual abusers might as well be invisible, since no one acknowledges them and refuses to do anything. Adrian himself is also scary as fuck, especially considering how we can't even see the motherfucker for 90% of the movie. And there are no loose ends, and the calculated nature of Adrian's abuse and psychopathy. Is it psychopathy or psychopathy? Psychopathy is it? How the fuck do you say that? How do you say psycho? Anyway, it makes for some tense and highly believable situations even in this sci-fi setting. And that's the power of storytelling, that's the power of the direction here, and Elizabeth Moss's performance. She is at her fucking peak here, because her performance is powerful and she's on screen alone for most of it. That's fucking hard to do. I don't think I need to say that, but just for acknowledgement's sake, it's not easy. I like how this film treats its themes with sensitivity and approaches this seemingly silly premise with poise and intelligence, and it makes for a really terrifying look into an increasingly dire situation for Cecilia. And that's where you start to see her character develop and grow. It's little by little through the film, but it does boil over into the final act in a satisfying and cathartic conclusion. This movie is kind of insane, right? It shouldn't have worked. Everything about it on paper leads to this tone-deaf affair with little to no conscience regarding the gravity of the subject matter, but I'm so happy that that could not be further from the case. Elizabeth Moss shouldn't have been able to pull this off with such conviction, considering she's on screen by herself, and what we're seeing was mostly done in post, probably. It's a fantastic film, and I say that with the utmost caution. For someone like me who can loosely relate to some of Cecilia's experiences, it wasn't as hard to watch for me as it might be for some other viewers. Either way, I'm giving The Invisible Man a fucking solid 5 out of 5 invisible emojis for being terrifying as a work of fiction and depicting the real terror of abuse and manipulation without bastardizing it, all while telling a worthwhile and, pretty concise story throughout. Anyway, that wraps up day 27. That was The Invisible Man. Be sure to catch our stream on Halloween day. It is at 8 p.m. twitch.tv/Hearse Hearse boys. We're going to be talking spooky stuff, playing spooky games, having a spooky podcast, special guests and everything like that. I will see you guys tomorrow for the next installment of 31 Nights, but I will see you guys on Halloween Day for our Halloween special live stream. My name is Rainey, and I will see you guys next time.